Welcome to the Orlando Sentinel Editorial Board interview with Lake County Property Appraiser Carey Baker, a name that Lake County voters have been marking on their ballots for more than 2 decades, and one that he hopes they remember in November when they'll have to write it instead. Baker's decision to qualify as a write-in candidate, which saved him a considerable filing fee, ended up earning him a headache when Mark Jordan qualified as the last possible moment for the race as a Republican. This left Jordan, who most people expected to qualify as a low visibility member, as the only name on the ballot, offset by a blank line where Baker's name should be. If you want to vote for Baker, here's what that should look like. We'll talk a bit more about that controversy later. But first, we want to ask about Baker's approach to the job he's held for 3 consecutive terms, after stints in both the Florida House and Senate. Just a note, we did invite Mark Jordan to join this interview, but he declined. It's notable that he's done very little fundraising, and we could not find a campaign website or social media account tied to his candidacy. We're not surprised given the response to his qualifying.
We are starting with something that is very much still on our minds, even though it passed almost a week ago now. Property appraisers often play a major, though unsung role in storm recovery. With Helene and Milton, Lake County took a lot of damage. What will your office be doing to give people the best estimate of that damage and respond to homeowners and businesses that are going to need your help?
And the question is, what has my office done in regards to disaster assessment?
Yeah. What are you doing to make sure that people who need help are getting it?
Well, so my primary job in a disaster like a hurricane is to literally inspect virtually every property in Lake County. And so we are looking for levels of damage so that we can make these damage assessments. And that might qualify us for various FEMA aid and other aids. So we're a very important cog in making sure that we are accurate in what we do, making sure we're very thorough in what we do. And my agency as well serves a purpose as we field phone calls. And even though I'm the property appraiser's office, we try to answer every question we can answer, because we know folks are struggling, they're having issues, and we don't want to just send them to another government agency if we can answer the question accurately for them. So we do a lot of that. I spent a lot of time in Emergency Operations Center working with all the players that are involved in helping people here in Lake County, providing for their needs, identifying their needs. And it can be a challenge. There's some folks that they don't really know they have a number they could call. And so my office has publicized that number greatly. I share it on my own personal Facebook account, and I try to reach out to people. And we've done a successful job here in Lake County. I'm very proud of everyone that's worked to make this a good result, the best it can be. And we're still doing work. We have Astor that's still underwater. So my team is yet to get into that area, but the people have been taken care of. But as far as disaster assessment, we still have to wrap that up. So I'm very proud of my team and what they've done. I'm very proud of all the partners here in Lake County and the state partners and the power company folks that just did an outstanding job of restoring power here in Lake County. I couldn't be any more happy.
Thank you so much. I actually wanted to follow up with that. One of the questions that a lot of property appraisers are looking at right now is how they can best use technology to assist in appraisals as a routine matter and in recovery. Are you using anything like drones or any mapping systems that you haven't used before to try to get an idea of how much damage there is in this particular instance, but then where there may be perhaps hidden structures that aren't reported or other things that would affect somebody's appraisal? So what tech wizardry have you adopted lately?
All right, so most currently it's been a new disaster assessment program. We had one before, which was highly effective. This one's just better in the sense that it's integrated with the county system in a more robust way. And so what that allows my field appraisers to do is they grab an iPad and they can just take off. It has the map of all the properties. They can take a photo of the damage using that iPad. They can click on that property and show the level of damage. They can show the type, how the damage was caused. In other words, was it a flood? Was it wind? Was it a tree? And so we're able to capture that in a very, very quick manner. And then that data is not only automatically transmitted to my office, but also to the Emergency Operations Center. So they are getting real-time results of my field appraisers who are out there working the areas that they're very, very familiar with. And currently, we don't have a drone in my office, but we are partnering up with one of the agencies that have a drone. I mentioned the Astor area. So because the St. John's is probably going to stay flooded for a while. And so we're going to use a drone to get in there and take a look. We have a pretty good idea of what's going on, but we'd just like to see it using the drone. But probably the best thing and greatest use of technology is our iPad with a disaster app program that allows us to accurately and quickly assess damage and transmit that data to the Emergency Operations Center.
Lake County added about 8,000 new homes in 2023, and the total taxable property values rose 14.8%, quite a jump. In a market that hot, how do you ensure that every property is valued fairly?
Well, listen, first place, it's a challenge. Meaning, when you have that many properties, it takes a lot of work. And so how we've addressed that is through the use of technology. We have a brand new, what we call computer-assisted mass appraisal system. And what that does, that allows us to capture all that sales data and be able to use the system to help us determine neighborhood by neighborhood some common values for common properties. And so because of the efficiency of that system, we're able to do ratio studies to ensure we're not missing things. We're able to put a layer out on the map what we've done so we visibly can see how we've appraised these properties. And here the proof is sort of in the pudding. We double check. We do quality control of our end product. The Department of Revenue actually audits our appraisals to make sure that we fall within a certain percentage. And of course, they do that with all the counties. So we're very proud that we've been very successful in passing those Department of audits. We're very proud of the fact that in our own quality control efforts that we're doing a good job. And that's not to say, I'm not going to tell you that occasionally, we may not get something right. Because the Supreme Court ruled that appraising is an art, not a science. And sometimes, especially these unique properties, unique houses, it can be a challenge. But I'm very proud of the effort that we put in to just ensure that we have it right.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to talk briefly about exemptions. Figuring out exactly who qualifies for what can be quite a chore. So what are you doing to make sure that Lake County property owners get every exemption for which they qualify, including the calculations that you have to do every year on percentages and this part of the property, but not that part? So
Sure. So, well, it all starts with my office having the attitude that if you are entitled to an exemption, we're going to do our best to make sure you get it. That's the first start. And then we publicize that. So we send out the trim notice, which is that estimated tax notice that everyone gets. I include a flyer in that lists all the exemptions, lists most of the exemptions that folks might qualify for. And then also on our website, if you look up your personal property record card, I list every possible exemption that you might qualify, all of them. And we mark the ones that you are currently qualified. So we show the exemptions that are available, and then we have a link to a summary of that exemption, and then we have a link to the statute. And so we're trying to do everything we can to make people aware. You know, one of the ones that we really work on, well, obviously the homestead exemption. You know, we want every new home buyer, we don't want them to forget. And so, but one of the ones that we really focus on is the low income seniors. I mean, these are the folks that struggle to pay their bills. And so we make extraordinary efforts to make sure that they're notified that they might qualify for this. And I'm very proud of the fact that we're doing a good job. We're reaching folks. People are applying for these exemptions. And there are obviously legal requirements that we hold them to. But we track all the exemptions and who qualifies for them. And then our system, you had mentioned, like, you know, there's cap. When you have a homestead, your value's capped. Even non-homestead properties are capped. And so the good news there is our system, especially our brand new system, is able to calculate that automatically. And it's a difficult job. Every piece of property is uniquely calculated due to caps and exemptions. But we get it done every year.
I suspect I probably know the answer to this question, but do you support Amendment 5, which would update the value of the exemptions each year?
I do support it. I think were I still in the legislature, I would have wanted to do more. But it does tie this, you know, the homestead exemption is actually two $25,000 exemptions. And so it takes the second $25,000 and indexes that to inflation. So it'll grow at least as inflation grows. It's a partial answer or a partial solution. I mean, property values have doubled in the last 5 years. They've doubled. So we probably needed to do more, but hey, I'm glad they did something and I support it.
Thank you for that. One more simple question for you. You come at this from a unique perspective, but do you think property appraisers should be in elected office?
Oh, I do. Absolutely. And here's why. Because we're given this broad power or ability to appraise property, that dramatically affects the taxes that are brought into a county or city or any government entity. Because we have the ability to grant or deny these exemptions or to grant or deny agriculture classifications, that also has a great effect on taxes. So it is good to have checks and balances. Were I just a government employee working for the county or cities, you know, there might be possibly, hopefully not, but there could be pressure to maybe not grant an exemption that should be granted, to not grant a large agriculture classification that should be granted. And so I think our system is designed to protect the taxpayer and the landowners, property owners, and I think it's working very well here in Florida.
Thank you. As we said earlier, we would like some insight into the turn of events that happened during qualifying. You said you sued election supervisor Alan Hayes and Mark Jordan, claiming that they broke qualifying law. That suit right now, I believe you're appealing. It was rejected, but you're appealing. But since Jordan was in line before qualifying, and the clear directive from the Department of Elections is that he should have been allowed to qualify, do you still maintain that Hayes and or Jordan did anything illegal?
Oh, yeah. So 3 things. One is a candidate who has qualified for another office by law has to write a letter of withdrawal. He did not do that. He submitted another form, which is not a letter of withdrawal, that the supervisor election accepted, but per state law, it was not a letter of withdrawal. So that's one issue. He also wrote his qualifying check out of his hospital board account. So that was a race he had fully qualified for. He established a campaign account for the hospital board, and that is the account that he wrote his qualifying check for property appraiser out of. That's in violation of state law. And then in regards to the filing deadline, yes, the state law says noon, or if you were in line. There was no line. There was no line. Mark Jordan could have easily qualified. In his deposition, he said he chose not to because he didn't want to. But that's probably my weakest argument, because Alan Hayes allowed a process for people to file after noon. So that really wasn't the backbone of my lawsuit. The backbone of the lawsuit was that he failed to withdraw per state law, and he also failed to write his qualifying check out of the proper campaign account.
Thank you for that. Mark Jordan is, of course, the brother of tax collector David Jordan. In the course of your elected jobs, the property appraiser and tax collector are often called upon to work closely together. Has that relationship been strained since qualifying, and do you think it will be strained in the future?
Sadly, yes. I mean, I wish it wasn't this way. You know, I'm friendly with everyone. I get along with everyone. I thought David Jordan was a friend. You know, I shared with him that I was going to file at the last second, you know, as a write-in. It would allow, you know, at the very end where no one could file after me and save the money. And I shared that with him, and then he essentially shared that with his brother, and they just waited for me. They were at the supervisor elections office. They were literally standing with me, talking with me, as if we were best of friends. And then I filed, and as soon as I walked out, you know, Mark Jordan filed against me. So, you know, do I forgive him? Yeah, I forgive him. I have to. But will we be as close as we were before? No, sadly. But, you know, professionally, nothing will change. Not one thing will change professionally, because I represent the 440,000 folks here in Lake County, and I'm proud of my service, and I'm proud of my office's commitment to them. And so when it comes to putting them first, that will always be the case.
Thank you so much. And before we go to your closing statement, I wanted to remind viewers that the Sentinel will be making a recommendation in this race, but we don't expect voters to just take our word for it. We urge you to look at both candidates in this race, in addition to our excellent news coverage by Steve Hudak, which has been informative and entertaining. But again, we have to say this is a weird race. Mark Jordan has granted very few interviews and appears to lack a campaign website. We haven't been able to find much on social media. So much of what you have to go on is what Mr. Baker has put out there, and the histories that are associated with his long legislative career, and as well as his previous terms as property appraiser. That's a lot of information still. So dig into our archives and take a look and make up your mind. Most importantly, we'd like you to remember that you need to vote on November 5th or before. And I'm going to make one last effort to show what it looks like to write in a candidate. You fill in the oval next to the blank line and write in the name of the candidate you wish to write in. In this case, we have provided an example, which would be Carey Baker, but you can write in whoever you want. The only one that will count, unfortunately, will be Carey Baker. So that's what it looks like to write in for a candidate. And with that, Mr. Baker, we would like to invite you to make a closing statement that it explains why people should choose you once more for their property appraiser and write you in.
Okay, well, thank you for this opportunity. I mean, for the last 12 years, I've been very proud to serve the good folks here in Lake County. And what I've done in 12 years is pretty incredible. We have totally modernized the office, and probably in the best way that we've done that is to embrace technology. And it's technology that benefits the citizens, technology that makes it easier for the citizens of Lake County to file for their homestead online. It literally only takes 10 minutes and saves them $850 a year. That's better than Geico. There's our website, easy to use. When you go on my website, it's easy to find your property. It's easy to find all the exemptions that you qualify for. And those are the things that we instituted over the 12 years. We've instituted other technology. For instance, when you have a deed, a real estate sale, there's a deed. We have a fancy deed reader that just does the work of two people. And as a consequence of this embracing technology, and listen, I'm not a technology expert. I'm just someone that uses it. And I know what's valuable. I know what's easy to use. And we try to make all our stuff both valuable and easy to use. And as a consequence of this, we are typically, not always, but typically per capita, the lowest cost property appraiser's office in the state of Florida. And I'm very proud of that fact. But maybe what I'm most proud of is that when you come in my office or you call my office, the level of customer service that you will receive is second to none. And I'll read our comment cards and people will say things like, well, both knowledgeable and efficient. You're talking about my staff. But you know what the best thing is? The best comment that I get often is that your staff is kind. Kind. Well, that conveys empathy. That conveys that my office cares about the folks we serve in a real and meaningful way. And I couldn't be more proud of them and what they've done for the citizens of Lake County. And once again, thank you, Orlando Sentinel, for giving me this opportunity to share and speak to you about what we've done in our office and promote Lake County. It's a great place to live and work. And so thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We wish you the best of luck